Hey everyone, this is Zach with 8020 Media, here today with a video on the 5.7 versus 6.4 HEMI engines. Which one is better? The 5.7 and 6.4 liter HEMI engines are both a part of Chrysler's third generation of the HEMI engine. The 5.7 HEMI was introduced in 2003 and went through a major update in 2009. The later engines are known as the 5.7 Eagle. And on the other hand, the 6.4 HEMI didn't come out until 2011 model years, so a little bit of a newer engine than the 5.7 HEMI. Both of these engines are found in very similar models. The 6.4 HEMI often carries the badging of the SRT8, SRT392, or the Scat Pack, so that is the one major difference between the 5.7 and 6.4 HEMI engines, is that the larger 6.4 HEMI is found in higher end models. Now with that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight in and discuss the 5.7 versus 6.4 HEMI engines. First off, we have a comparison with the performance of these two engines. As the saying goes, there is no replacement for displacement. While this isn't always true, it does ring true in many extents when comparing the 5.7 versus 6.4 HEMI engines. So the larger 6.4 HEMI generally offers about 75 to 100 horsepower more than the 5.7 HEMI engine, and also an extra roughly 60 to 80 foot-pounds of torque from the factory. And equally as importantly, that torque also applies to the lower end with the 6.4 HEMI, generally delivering about 70 foot-pounds more torque on the low end of the RPM range, which makes the 6.4 HEMI engine a little peppier and quicker getting around town or towing things in the case of the Ram trucks or any other vehicle you may be towing with. So ultimately, straight from the factory, these engines share much of their design in common and are really very similar engines. So naturally, the larger 6.4 HEMI is going to have these advantages in performance, power, and towing capability. Moving on to aftermarket upgrades and potential for both the 5.7 and 6.4 HEMI engines. Again, the larger displacement 6.4 liter V8 HEMI carries a slight advantage here. As I mentioned, the 6.4 HEMI delivers about 75 to 100 horsepower more than the 5.7 HEMI, and mod for mod, that same range tends to apply as you begin upgrading both engines. So with a tune, intake, headers, and camshaft, the 6.4 HEMI can offer upwards of about 500 wheel horsepower. With those same modifications, the smaller 5.7 liter HEMI tends to end up somewhere in the ballpark of about 425 wheel horsepower. So again, that goes to show mod for mod, the larger 6.4 liter engine tends to carry that roughly 75 to 100 horsepower advantage over the 5.7. When it comes to taking things further than just basic bolt-ons and naturally aspirated form, the 5.7 HEMI does actually have a slight advantage in strength, at least relative to its size. The 5.7 HEMI is a little bit more capable and a little bit better at handling higher boost than the 6.4 HEMI. However, the trade-off there being because the 6.4 HEMI has the advantage of the displacement, that it doesn't require as much boost if you're looking to make a set amount of power. Whatever the number is, the 6.4 HEMI is going to be able to achieve those results with less boost and ultimately less stress on the engine overall, simply because it is the larger engine. Moving on to our next topic in this comparison, looking at reliability. Jumping straight to the point here, this is really a draw as to which engine is more reliable. Both the 5.7 and 6.4 HEMI engines earn average to above average remarks for reliability, and as to which one is better really comes down to a number of factors like maintenance and repair history, how the engine's been driven, how it's been used in the past, and ultimately some of it also boils down to luck of the draw. So naturally, some 5.7 HEMI engines are going to be better than the 6.4 HEMI, and on the other hand, some 6.4s are going to naturally be better than some 5.7 HEMIs out there. So again, really a toss-up when it comes to reliability. Both of these engines are generally reliable and tend to offer at least average reliability, if not above average reliability. Moving on to our final topic, 5.7 versus 6.4 HEMI cost. This is pretty basic and straightforward. The 5.7 HEMI is the older engine dating back to 2003, with the 6.4 HEMI not coming out until 2011. So if you're looking in the market, obviously you can find much cheaper options with the 5.7 HEMI, just considering that it's older. So ultimately, right off the bat, that's an advantage for the 5.7 HEMI. Even if you're looking at similar years and models with a similar maintenance history, similar condition, mileage, etc., if you compare a 5.7 versus 6.4, generally the 5.7 HEMI is going to be about $5,000 to $10,000 cheaper than the 6.4 HEMI. That's where the argument for the 5.7 HEMI becomes a lot more compelling, especially if you're looking to do any aftermarket upgrades or modifications. The money that you save on buying the cheaper 5.7 HEMI can be put into some modifications and upgrades that can quickly push the 5.7 HEMI into the same ballpark as the 6.4 HEMI. So really that wraps up our main comparisons for the 5.7 versus 6.4 HEMI. So in summary of everything discussed and talking about which of these two engines is better, if either of them truly are better, the 6.4 HEMI holds the displacement advantage, and the common saying there's no replacement for displacement does ring true to many degrees here, especially because these engines share so much of their base design in common. Naturally, the larger 6.4 HEMI is going to have the slight advantage when it comes to performance, 0 to 60 times, towing capacity, and things of that nature. When it comes to power and performance, as I mentioned a few times throughout the video, the 6.4 HEMI delivers about 75 to 100 horsepower more than the 5.7 HEMI, and both of these engines respond incredibly well to aftermarket upgrades. So both of these engines are much more capable than they come directly from the factory. And throughout all the mods, if you look at a mod for mod comparison or boost for boost, the 6.4 HEMI tends to hold that roughly 75 to 100 horsepower advantage. On to reliability, both of these engines are reliable, and there isn't really one clear winner here. It really just comes down to some luck of the draw and maintenance history for the engines. And then finally talked about cost between the 5.7 and 6.4 HEMI, and that's where the 5.7 liter V8 really has the advantage in being about $5,000 to $10,000 cheaper, as well as being an older engine where if you're looking for something even cheaper, you can go back to 06, 07, 08 models, back in the days where the 6.4 HEMI still wasn't available and in production. So that's a big advantage to the 5.7 HEMI, and really one of the most compelling reasons to buy the 5.7 HEMI, especially if that fits a little bit more into your budget and you can save up over time and spend on some performance mods and make the car what you really want it to be. And with the 6.4 HEMI being more expensive, that just might not be possible, or it might take longer to invest in those upgrades and really push that engine to the next level as well. So as for which one is better, again, this is truly a toss-up. It really just comes down to personal preference and potentially what's available in your area. If you're looking to pick up a 5.7 or 6.4 HEMI immediately, go test drive some, check some out locally, drive a couple of each and see which one really is in the best condition, has the best maintenance history, and get a feel for both engines and make a decision from there, because ultimately they're both great engines and there isn't truly one correct answer that fits all as to which one is better. Anyway guys, that wraps up our video for today. If you appreciated the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more in the future. Thanks everyone.